Hello and welcome to Jama Network Open Conversations. I'm Angel Desai, Associate Editor for Jama Network Open. Today I have the great privilege of speaking with current outgoing Editor-in-Chief Dr. Fred Rivara and incoming Editor-in-Chief Dr. Eli Perencevich about the past, present, and future directions of Jama Network Open. Welcome to the both of you and thank you so much for speaking with me today. To begin, can I ask you to introduce yourselves?
Thank you very much. This is Dr. Fred Rivara. I'm the outgoing Editor-in-Chief of Jama Network Open.
Thanks, Dr. Desai. I'm Dr. Eli Perencevich, the incoming Editor-in-Chief of Jama Network Open.
Fred and Eli, I'd like to start by asking you if you could reflect on your journey to becoming a medical editor. What drew you to this work and ultimately to Jama Network Open?
Well, I have to go back 24 years because that's when I started this work. I started when Dr. Kathy DeAngelis, who was editor of Archives of Pediatrics and Adolescent Medicine, became editor-in-chief of JAMA and the JAMA Network. And the job for archives became available, and I applied for it and was fortunate in getting that position. So I did that for 17 and a half years. And then back in 2017, Howard Bachner, who was then editor-in-chief of JAMA and the JAMA Network, and Tom Easley, the publisher, had this brilliant idea of starting an open access journal. And they asked me if I'd be interested in switching from JAMA Pediatrics to JAMA Network Open. And the idea of a new challenge taking on, first of all, an open access journal, starting up a new journal, and starting up a journal that was all ages and all problems was really appealing to me as a challenge. So that's why I jumped at the chance.
Yeah, for me, the path started perhaps untraditionally. About 15 years ago, two colleagues and I started a blog, Controversies in Hospital Infection Prevention. And we reviewed articles that were published in every medical journal and that were related to infection control, hospital epidemiology, and antimicrobial stewardship. And it became pretty popular for, a free blog, and really started to appreciate the importance of science communication. And so that's kind of where I caught the bug. And then in 2018, when Fred and Steve Finn contacted me to join as associate editor for infectious disease for JAMA Network Open, I jumped at the chance. In particular, the open access component, which is kind of like a blog. It can reach anyone at any time, anywhere. So that's kind of how I got involved, and I really enjoyed my time the past 6 years.
Fantastic. Two different journeys taking you to the same place today. Fred, you talked a little bit about how JAMA Network Open started. I wonder if you could walk us through the evolution of the journal, beginning from its founding core mission as a medical journal and the trajectory of it up to today.
Well, the JAMA Network has always sought to be on the forefront of science and publishing in the world. And back in 2017, they realized that among the journals that we had at the time, there were a lot of articles that were not able to be accepted because all of the acceptance rates were really pretty much in the single digits. So there's a lot of good science that we weren't able to publish as a network. And so the idea came up, how can we really address that need to try to get more of this science out there to the public? That combined with the whole movement to have something be open access, to make it available to people around the world for free without any paywalls, really was something that the two came together. And so this idea came up, let's have a new journal within the JAMA Network that would really both address the scientific missions of publishing high quality science. And then the second mission of let's make this available to everyone around the world to maximize this chance of improving health and healthcare. And so that's really how the journal started. We've had tremendous support from the publisher. It was initially Tom Easley. He's now vice president at the AMA, and our publisher is Brian Shields. They've both been extremely supportive of the journal. And then Howard was succeeded by Kirsten Bibbins-Domingo, and she's been extremely supportive of the journal as well. So we've had this great support from JAMA and the JAMA Network. We've had great support from the editors in the network in terms of sending us papers that they're not able to accept because of their limits of what they can publish. And plus, we've had a great response from authors around the world to submit their work to us.
And, Fred, you oversaw the journal during and throughout really the COVID-19 pandemic. I wonder if you could reflect on how the pandemic potentially has affected the journal, but also medical publishing in general.
Well, you two were a big part of that work during the COVID pandemic. And When the pandemic began in February, March of 2020, the number of papers that were submitted to Jama Network Open just exploded. And at one point, I think 42% of our submissions were COVID related, but our numbers increased fairly dramatically. And the pace of publication, as you know, was incredibly rapid. We were getting articles that were based upon data collected 2 weeks before. And by May or June of 2020, we were getting systematic reviews on papers that had been published on COVID topics. So the pace of publication became extremely rapid. And I think we, as you know, tried to do is have the three of us plus Steve Finn, the deputy editor, weekly, and really carefully consider what were the papers we wanted to send out for review. Where did we think the field needed at the time? What was going to most influence health and healthcare at the time? And so I think that was a good move on our part to gather together on a weekly basis and really think hard about what are the papers we're going to publish as a open access journal on COVID-related topics. And we continue to have a large number of COVID papers submitted to us, though the percentage of them as a portion of our overall submissions has gone down. We still are getting on the order of 3,000 a year. So we're still getting a very large number of COVID-related papers.
So as we kind of shift into the present, Eli, as you step into this role as editor-in-chief, if you could reflect on your vision for Jama Network Open moving forward a little bit.
My main vision is to continue the success that Fred and the entire team, Stephen, the deputy editor, have started. I think we're really, a wonderful journal, a very deliberative group. I mean, as Fred was describing, we reviewed as a team the COVID papers, and we have a couple manuscript calls a week where the editor, deputy editor, and the associate editors discuss papers. And so it's a really thoughtful team. I think my main mission is to keep things going because nothing's really broken. My hope is it continues to grow not only in the US readership, but globally. 5 of the top 6 countries, when we can look at readership, are predominantly English speaking. And I would love to figure out a way to increase readership outside of US, Canada, Australia, the UK. And that's happening, but I'd like to do that more. So I think global, kind of increase the diversity of our readership and, authors submitting papers is a main goal of mine.
That's great. And to take that a little bit further, Eli, as the world of open access medical journals continues to evolve and expand, how do you see Jama Network within that landscape?
We want to remain one of the highest impact open access journals, but I think we're going to need to innovate in many ways. We get close to 20,000 submissions a year, probably by the end of the year. We'll be up to that number. I think that's predominantly because we're an open access journal. A lot of countries and funding agencies want their science published in open access journals. So we really need to evolve to figure out ways to equitably select papers with such a large volume, screening them and sending them out for review. This is a very time-consuming process. And so I think we need to think through as a journal and as a network, how we can improve that processing or maintain the quality in the face of such high volume in submissions.
That's fantastic. As we start to wind down, a question for Fred. I just want to know, what is one or more things that you're proud of as you look back at your tenure at Jama Network Open? And then what is one piece of advice you would have for Eli, editor-in-chief to editor-in-chief?
What I'm most proud of is the team that we've assembled. There's really an extraordinary group of editors, associate editors, the staff in Chicago, led by Dan Loudon. We have just a really extraordinary team that are very thoughtful people that carefully think about the articles that we are looking at and are considering for publication. So it always comes down to people, and that's what I'm most proud of. And I think my advice for Eli would be, and I know he will, but I'm very thrilled that Eli is taking over the editorship of the journal, that Eli maintains and continues to grow that high-quality team.
And as a bonus final question for both of you, any advice for folks who may be interested in becoming a medical editor one day?
I think it starts off with first agreeing to do reviews. I think that doing reviews and doing a good job with reviews makes you noticed by the editor. And if you agree to do reviews and do a good job with those, editor is likely to not only ask you to continue, but at some point may ask you to be on the editorial board, or if editorship positions appear, to ask you to join the team. But I do think it starts with doing reviews and doing good reviews.
Thanks, Fred. I want to get in a plug to thank Fred for his leadership over the past 6 years and incredible mentorship, and the team he and Steve Finn have built. Just wonderful to be a part of. I think if someone wanted to be involved, just to get a little plug in there, Dr. Monica Vela is our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Associate Editor, and she has started last year a Health Equity Editorial Fellowship, and that is open for applications where early career faculty can apply for this fellowship, and that'll be posted soon. And they get specific training in how to review articles, how to think about being a medical editor. So something to keep an eye on. It's a really unique opportunity with Jama Network Open.
This is a great thought to end on. Fred, on behalf of all of us at JNO, I just want to thank you for your visionary leadership, mentorship, and friendship. And Eli, thank you so much for taking us on. Thanks again to both Dr. Fred Rivara and Dr. Eli Perencevich for speaking with me today. This was a lot of fun. This episode was produced by Daniel Musisi at the Jama Network. To follow this and other Jama Network podcasts, please visit us online at jamanetworkaudio.com. Thanks for listening.